Oh, okay. We just got
I
serious.
am recording. No,
Uh-oh. I can't be recorded. I'm leaving this meeting. No, I'm kidding.
no, you're not. You're staying right
Bye.
here.
Wait, where's my invisible cloak? My invisibility cloak.
Oh, you just did it for a second.
No, I actually had one last week. I was playing Hades with his helmet of darkness. So anytime he put the helmet on, he would just go invisible. So I had this
Yeah.
black cloak and I would just go boom and I would just cover up and it was great. All right, but tonight it's more like Dionysus. So
Oh my goodness.
yes, Dionysus. Drinking up. Oh yeah,
Well,
grape juice.
coffee. Oh, can you see it? Coffee.
Yes. Ah,
Alrighty, let's do this and let's make it happen.
all right. Do you want me to start? Or do you
Sure.
want to start?
So Paige, no, you do the honors, start. Venetia, you want to go second?
Yeah, I'll go second.
Okay, and then I am third. Please,
Okay.
if I step on anybody's toes, please let me know. I don't mean to do it. You know what I'm saying. Okay,
Chapter
page
9.
85. Oh, sorry about that. If you will, chapter and title. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. Get to work, Hercules. Mythomania,
No.
Book 7, Chapter 9. Big Pot. Hydra's breath hit me like a hammer. I'm immortal. It couldn't kill me, but it made me horribly sick to my stomach. Dive! I managed to call to Hercules and see. They dove under the swampy waters. I drew a deep, godly breath and blew Hydra's poisoned greeting far away. By the time Hercules and sea popped up again, the air was breathable. Don't talk, I told Hydra. Listen. Hydra's big mouth slowly closed. She tilted her head, ready to hear what I had to say. I was just visiting your mother in her cave, I said. She sends you her love. Hydra's big mouth curved up in a smile.
Okay.
Hercules doesn't really want to fight you, I said. Do too, Hercules muttered under his breath. But he must do 12 labors, I quickly exclaimed, how Hera and King Ulysses were out of great Hercules. Your mother would like you to help Hercules, Hydra, if you're willing to help him. Nod. Hydra eagerly nodded all of her head. Good, I said. Then you must go to Menacini with Hercules and sea. You must let them present you with King Uri. Hydra's head started nodding again. I'm sure the king won't want to keep you around, I said. So after he checks you off the list, you'll be free to come back here or go wherever you please, I frowned. Except for your little breath problem. Hydra hung her head in shame. Hydra, said C, is it true that you've been terrifying the neighborhood and poisoning every mortal man, woman, or beast who comes near the swamp?
Okay. Hydra shrugged her little blob-like shoulders. You didn't mean to, asked C. Hydra shook her head vehemently. It was an accident, right? Hercules asked. He knew all about accidents. Hydra nodded. She seemed grateful that, at last, these two seemed to understand. Now Hydra reached up with a surprisingly elegant pair of hands. She felt around on her headstalks. During the battle, multiple heads had sprouted on some of them. Now she began plucking off the extras. When picked, each one shriveled up, and she tossed what was left of it into the swamp. When she finished her weeding, she was her old nine-headed self again. All nine mouths smiled on us. I thought Echidna would be pleased with the way this was turning out. I walked with Hercules, Sea, and Hydra to the edge of the swamp. Hydra waded out of the water. She had extremely short legs. Her feet were big wide flippers. Walking to Mycenae with her was going to take a long time. Okay.
I could carry you, Hercules told Hydra. He reached out for her, but she bent her knees and sprang up, landing on top of his head. She gripped it with her flipper feet. Awesome, said Hercules. Hop on, he told Sea, and the lion took his usual place around our hero's neck. Have a good trip, I called after the odd-looking trio as they set off down the road. I dashed down to the underworld for a few days, but I was back in time to see Hercules and company stride through the gates of Mycenae. I wore my helmet, though. This was Hercules' big moment. I didn't want the crowd to be distracted by the presence of a god. The citizens of Mycenae gathered around Hercules. They stared at the big, muscular hero wearing a lion around his shoulders and the world's oddest head ornament. They ran toward the palace, shouting, "Hercules is coming! Hercules is coming!" By the time Hercules had reached the palace, a huge crowd had gathered.
Okay. Yuri!
Somebody else's turn.
Sorry.
Yuri! Hercules called. He never could bring himself to call his cousin King Yuri. I'm back. There was no answer. Yuri! Called Hercules. I brought Hydra. Hooray! Hooray! Shouted the crowd. Put it down on the stoop, came in a disembodied voice. Yuri? Hercules looked around. Are you inside that big bronze pot? What if I am? Yuri's voice flopped up out of the opening. A king has to protect himself so he can rule, he added. I'm doing this for the good of my people. Hercules broke into a grin. Come on out and get your Hydra. A small swatted panel slid open about mid-pot. Yuri's eyes peered out at us. I see it, he said. I'll check it off the list. 2 down, said Hercules. He reached up and slapped his hands with Hydra. Hydra nodded. Then he jumped off Hercules' back as he waddled over to the big bronze pot.
Hydra came only halfway to the top of the pot. But as she stood there, her neck stalks began to extend up, up, up. The crowd hushed. Everyone watched in amazement as Hydra's neck stalks kept on growing. What's happening out there? Called Yuri. Guards! This is your king speaking to you, guards. Tell me what's happening. Hydra's neck stalks reached the rim of the pot. Still they grew. Guards! Called Yuri. Guards! Can you hear me? Calling all guards! Get me out of here or I'll fire the lot of you. Now Hydra bent her neck stems, and with all 9 heads, she peered over the rim of the pot to see the king in hiding. Guards, obey me now, Yuri called. It's dark in here, and I'm gonna get a cramp in my leg. Get over here on the double. That must have been when King Yuri looked up. He let out an ichor-curdling scream. Oops.
Yeah.
I love it. Live radio production.
Right?
Oh, that's what we got to do. I need to get you in touch with radio, what do you call it? Atlanta Radio Theater Company, Artsy.
Oh wow. I didn't know they had one of those.
Yes. Oh, I totally need to get you in touch with them.
Okay.
Wait, you got to scream. Let's hear you scream.
I don't even think my thing got that because when it's loud, it peaks and it doesn't get me. So I turn away from it. Okay.
And then we all heard a clunk as King Yuri fainted dead away inside his big bronze pot. Chapter 10, Big Hick. It took dozens of palace guards, plus all the king's servants, to tip the big bronze pot over on its side. 2 guards went into the pot, dragged out Yuri, and carried him into the palace. Hydra reached up a hand to cover her biggest mouth as she laughed. She didn't want to poison any bystanders. Look, said C, pointing to the pot. There's a piece of parchment. King Yuri must have dropped it when he fainted. I'll bet he tells what the next labor is. Hercules ran over to get it. He handed it to C. You read it. Labor 3, C read. Bring me the wild deer with antlers of gold and hooves of brass.
Okay.
Who has
been trampling farmers' fields near Mount Cyrenea. I've heard about this deer. It was a hind of a female deer, but it had antlers like a stag. It belongs to Artemis, goddess of the chase and the hunt. Hydra insisted on going with Hercules and C to find the hide, and the three set off. I bid them goodbye, then Astro traveled to Artemis's earthly hunting log. Zip! Clearly in the woods, hounds began barking and snarling, and managed to land beside a picnic table where Artemis was. Artemis slipped before I had a chance to open up my mouth. She sunk out her bow and had her arrow pointed at my head. It's easy, Artemis, I said. It's easy. Artemis had won the gold medal for archery in the first Olympics. I didn't want her to take a shot at me. Artemis lowered her weapon, her hounds.
Okay. Stopped snarling. Why are you here? Artemis asked. Then she looked hopeful. You want to go hunting? Oh, no, thanks, I said. Don't let me interrupt your dinner. Sit. We can talk while you eat. I sat down across from Artemis as she sank her teeth into a big, meaty thigh bone of some sort, and I told her why I'd come. Hercules would like to borrow your hind, I said. Show it to King Eurystheus. Then he'll bring it right back to you. Artemis rolled her eyes. One doesn't go around borrowing deer as if they were library books or cups of sugar. She put 2 fingers into her mouth and gave an ear-splitting whistle. If we can borrow your whistle. We didn't hear it.
Oh, wow, I was too loud then. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You hear that?
We didn't get that one that time, but that's okay.
That one.
Yeah, it's probably too loud. A distant hook sounded. In less than a minute, a majestic white deer appeared at the edge of the clearing. She walked straight to Artemis, her brass hoofs gleaming. She bent her head, taking great care to keep her huge rack of golden antlers from doing any harm. Artemis gave her head a rub, then put an arm around her neck. Okay. Who's
Bye.
next?
Oh, hello, Precious. Would you like to be borrowed? Precious shook her head, stomped the brass hoof, and gave a woof. Sounded like no to me. Sorry, Hades, Artemis said. Can't do it. I don't blame you, I told her. Anyway, this is all Hera's doing. Hera! Artemis's eyes darted around. She didn't come with you, did she? No, I said. But she's the one who put King Yuri up to this whole 12 labors of Hercules thing. Don't worry about it, Artemis. It's not your problem. I stood to go. Wait, Hades. I was hunting a wild boar the other day, and the beast ran by one of Hera's temples. I'm goddess of the chase, so naturally I chased after it. Hera happened to see me and stormed out of her temple, all bent out of shape. Now she's posted big no hunting signs all over the place. So I think I'll help your friend after all, Hades. He can borrow Precious if he can catch her.
Okay.
She handed me the hind's golden collar. Once you slip this over her head, she will do whatever you say. Fair enough, I told her. I'll tell Hercules. Artemis gave Precious a pat on the flank, and the deer practically flew back into the woods. Hercules was a fast runner, but this hind was amazing. Catching her wasn't going to be easy. An astral traveled right back to Hercules. Zip! He had his two companions were on the way to Mount Serenia when he saw me. Hydra hopped off Hercules' head. C unwrapped himself from around his shoulders. The three sat down by the side of the road to rest. I sat down with them. I've got some good news, I told them, and some bad news. First, the golden antler deer looking for belongings to Artemis. She calls her Precious and says she can borrow her to show the King Yuri. All right, said Hercules. And what's the good news? That was the good news, I said. The bad.
Okay, news is that you have to catch her first, and Precious can run like the wind. No problem, Hercules jumped up. Let's go! I led the little party to the woods near Artemis's hunting lodge. Get ready, Bob, please. Artemis whistled for Precious. Artemis whistled for Precious. I offered. Hercules put his thumb and forefinger in his mouth and blew.
That,
No, it didn't pick it up. No, it was too loud.
It's a dog whistle.
I can't. No.
Wow.
Yeah, that microphone's sensitive to that, I
It
guess.
is sensitive, I guess.
Yeah. Well, now Zeus's version of this labor. Now, Zeus's version of this labor in the big fat book of Greek myths says that Hercules chased after the golden antlered hind for 1 whole year before catching her. Why T-Bams told this particular lie is anybody's guess, but here's what really happened. No sooner had Hercules whistled than I caught a flash of golden antlers through the trees. Precious came to the edge of the clearing. She eyed Hercules warily. Said Hercules. The deer's eyes flickered with understanding. Did Precious speak cow, or was Hercules okay?
Speaking some sort of universal language understood by all big hooved cud chewers. I never knew for sure, but whatever the case, Precious walked straight to Hercules. Our hero gave her a pat and slid the golden collar around her neck. Precious was enormous, big enough to carry Hercules, Sea, and Hydra on her back all the way down one mountain and up another to King Yuri's palace. I met them there. Just as the magnificent beast strode through the gates of Mycenae. As before, a crowd had gathered. The mortals had never seen such a wondrous animal as Precious, let alone one carrying a muscle man, a lion, and a strange multi-headed monster. The crowd followed Precious, the brass hooves clacking on the road, all the way to the palace. They cheered and shouted, "Hooray for Hercules!" "Yuri!" called Hercules, standing in front of the great pot. "Come out and see the deer!" The little slotted panel in the big bronze pot slid open. Yuri's eye appeared.
I
Okay.
see the antlers. King Yuri's voice echoed from the pot. Make the deer back up. I want to see its brass hooves. Show the king your brass hooves, Precious, said Hercules. Precious whistled in response. Then she showed him with a swift kick to the side of the pot. Ow! Cried Yuri. Precious kicked again. Bam! And again. Bam! It reminded me of the time little Hercules had little Yuri had played catch. Ow! Cried Yuri again. He was so frightened he managed to sleep out of his pot all of his own and run into the palace. Minutes later, a piece of parchment floated from down from the palace window. Sieg picked it up and looked at it. Oh, he said.
Okay. Chapter 6, Big Boar.
11.
I told y'all I was rusty with my Roman numerals. Yes, chapter 11, Big Boar. Uh-oh, said Hercules. C nodded and read from the parchment. Labor boar, bring me the boar of Erymanthus, who kills anyone unlucky enough to get near him. He shuddered. I've heard of this boar. He's a heartless beast with gnarled tusk out to here. He extended a foreleg. He eats muscle-bound heroes for breakfast. And I eat wild boar sausage for lunch, said Hercules. Let's go get it. I offered to take Precious back to Artemis. I hopped onto her back, and off she galloped. It was an exciting ride, but all too short. When we reached the hunting lodge, Precious stopped. I jumped down, okay?
Nice work, dear, I told her. Precious gave me a wuffle and ran off into the woods. I was about to chant the astro-traveling spell, join up with Hercules, when a terrible, ichor-chilling roar sounded. I'd only heard one roar like that before. It had come from the flaming mouth of the Caledonian boar as he executed his famous flying hoof thrust that knocked my wrestling champ, Eagle Eye Cyclops, flat on the mat. A second savage roar sounded. I didn't think it could be a Caledonian boar. He ran championship wrestling school in Caledonia, teaching little piggy wrestling hopefuls all the right moves. But could it be the boar of Erymanthus? I headed into the woods to find out. I hadn't gone far when I came upon a pair of hairy wild boars. They were stomping the ground and roaring as they circled each other. Between them sat a pile of acorns. It looked as if the two boars were about to have a terrible fight over them. If one of these beasts was the boar of Erymanthus, I didn't want him all bruised and beaten from a fight.
Okay.
No,
it's me. No, I wanted him to tiptoe shape so he could roar and stampede and scare the royal pants off Yuri.
Stop.
Huh?
Venetia after me.
She got too excited.
She did?
She could continue this page. I'll do the next one.
I'm so sorry. No. You do it. I'm so
Oh
sorry.
my God, it's so funny.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
It's because you're excited. No, look, I understand you're excited. We are. We all are. This is hilarious. This is really, truly hilarious.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you think so. And you're enjoying it. Okay, I'm so sorry, Venetia. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Quickly, I shifted my brain into CCC, Creature Communication Channel. It's a little power we gods have, and believe me, it comes in handy when we want to talk to animals who don't have the gift of speech. Boars, I thought. Hold up a minute. The boar stopped circling. What's he want? One boar thought in the other. Search me, the second boar thought back. Let's gore him. Hey, no, I'll come in peace, I thought to the boars. I'm looking for the wild boar in Erymanthus. Where boars from Erymanthus thought that the first boar, and we're pretty darned wild. This brought out brought on a fit of snorting laughter. Right back. I like to find you.
Okay. Sure we know him, thought the first four. But we're not telling you nothing. Never thought the second four. Our lips were sealed. I'll go on first, the first four thought to the second. Then you finish him off. Listen, I thought back. I'm an immortal god. You can't kill me. I'll make you a deal. Tell me where I can find the boar of your Manthus. I'll tell you where you can find the world's crunchiest acorns. He lives in Arcadia. The firstborn thought quickly at the foot of Mount. Oh Lord, Erymanthus. He's big and pink, and he doesn't look dangerous. Thought the second boar, but he is. He's deadly. Now, where are the crunchy acorns? Thought the first boar, drool dripping from his hairy lips. In Donda, I thought back. It's that way, I pointed. The boars trotted off in the direction of Dodonda, home to the sacred oaks of Zeus. I chanted the astro spell for Mount Erymanthus. Zip! I landed at the foot of the mountain. I blinked, and my godly ears, okie dokie then.
Wait a minute. I want to hear the sound effect for zip.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Thank you. And my godly heart nearly stopped. Hercules, Sea, and Hydra lay sprawled on the ground. What awful thing had happened? I ran over to them. Hydra was immortal. At least one of her heads had to be alive. But what about Hercules and Sea? As I drew near, I heard the voice. And then I went over to this other tree, it said. It had a rough bark, so I leaned against it and gave my back a really good scratch. You think it's easy for a boar to scratch its own back? It is not. I looked up. There, sitting on a stump, was a very large, very pink, and nearly hairless boar. He was doing the talking. Oh, sometimes I can get my brother to scratch my back, he was saying. If he's not too busy, rooting for acorns, things like that. He's got quite an appetite, my brother does. So he spends a lot of time rooting. Hello, I said loudly, hoping to stop the flood of words. The boar's black eyes flicked toward me, but he never stopped talking. I didn't hear you coming, he said.
Okay.
I was very good hearing as a wolf. We must tippy toe. The boars can't tippy toe because we don't have toes. We have hooves. I guess we could tippy toe if we wanted to, but boars, as a rule, love to make a racket. Shh, I said. Quiet. You're the boar of the Erymanthus, aren't you? The big pink boar narrowed his eyes, beady eyes. Good guess, he said. Hardly anyone can tell. I don't look dangerous. I look like a nice pink pig. And then, surprise, I can talk. Believe me, when a boar starts talking, everyone listens. And once we're listening, I never stop talking until everyone within hearing distance is a goner. So you bore your victims to death, I said. The wild boar Erymanthus nodded. I'll wake up the others now, I told him. And then have we got a job for you? I don't generally take random jobs, Boris said as I gently shook Hercules and Sea to wake.
Them don't really need work. Why should I? Acorns grow on trees. When I told Hercules he just had a near-death experience, he laughed. No way. I was just having a little nap. I explained to the boar how he needed to go with Hercules to see King Eury's. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I've lost my place, you guys.
No offense, boar, Sea said, but Hercules is a big hero. He can't march into Mycenate. Did you find it yet? Or do you want me to keep reading?
Yes, go ahead.
He can't march into Mycenae with what looks like a big pink pig. It would ruin his image. How about if I roll in the dirt, scuff up my hooves, and point my tusks out? The boar made a terrible, frightening face. Ooh, works for me, said C. Awesome, said Hercules. When Hercules led the result of Labor 4 through the gates of Mycenae, 4 let rip with one mighty roar after another.
Roar!
He was a real crowd pleaser. Yuri, called Hercules when they reached the palace. Stick your head out of the pot and look upon the wild boar of Erymanthus.
Okay,
But as usual,
but sorry.
Felicia.
Okay. But as usual, Yuri just peeked up through the little slit. Okay. He said the king, I'll check off board. Now take him away. Far away from Prometheus. He pushed something out through the slit. Here's your next labor, Hercules. C caught the thing before it fell to the ground. It was a small camera polarios, old Greek speak for a Polaroid camera, with a little roll of parchment attached to it. He unrolled the parchment and read, Labor 5. The labors of King Ugias have been complaining about the horrible stink. You have 1 day to smoke the king's stables. P.S. Bring me a picture showing the nice and clean. See? You're smoking. No problem, said Hercules. I spent years mucking out cow barns. A laugh wafted up from inside the big bronze pot. Yuri called, You haven't seen these stables, Hercules. Hercules C and Hydra took off with Ilus.
Okay, where King Augeas ruled. But the boar sat down beside the big bronze pot. I stuck around for a minute to see what would happen. I had a bronze pot once, King Yuri, said the boar, but the darn thing kept tarnishing, so I had to polish it. I don't really like polishing things. The polish smells bad, for one thing. You may not think so, but we boars have very sensitive snouts. The polish made me snout itch, and when my snout itches, it makes me sneeze. Guards! Called Yuri from inside the pot. Guards!
Chapter 12. Really big job. I caught up with Hercules and the others.
Could you hold on 1 second for me, please?
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
For a change, I walked with them to Elis. All I knew about King Augeas was that he owned a lot of cattle and 12 prized white bulls sacred to Helios, the sun god. But as we went, we heard an earful about what to expect when we reached Augeas's stables. The stables are that way, said a group of hikers we'd stopped and asked for directions. Hope you brought your nose plugs. Headed for the stables, eh? Said an old woman we met crossing a bridge over the river Alpheus. I'd turn back if I were you. The stables? Said some ancient Greek picnickers we met as we waded across the Peneus River at a shallow spot. They shook their heads.
No way! When we reached Ilus, we didn't need to ask directions anymore. We just found our noses halfway up the mountainside to King Ugias' estate. The whole place stank of high Mount Olympus. The king lived in a big blue stone flat palace. The stables stretched from the very top of the mountain all the way down to the bottom. Hercules strode up to the palace. Hello, King. For a while, no one answered him. Then the head of an ancient mortal appeared at an upper window. The crown of the head told us what he found the king. Are you Rambler Rousers? The monarch called. Come to make trouble for an old king? No, sir, said Hercules. Speak up, said the old king. I have been sent to clean out your stables, shouted Hercules. Ah, said the king. For 20 years, I have
prayed to Hera to send a stable cleaner my way. At last, my prayers have been answered. Hercules swallowed. 20 years? Oh, go on then, said the king. Oh, the old king. Get to it! sir, said Hercules. Tell me, oh, how can you stand the stink? Can't hear you, shout at the old king. I've lost my hearing now, along with my sense of smell. Speak up! Ah, that explained it. Never mind, said Hercules. I'm on it. So, we walked up the mountain to the first stable. Hercules opened the door. The stench was so powerful it knocked us all off our feet. Oh, said Hercules, these stables are worse than I thought. Much worse, said C, who looked as if he might pass out. Hydra pinched 2 of her noses. I had to agree with them. These stables were worse than anything I'd imagine. Oh, the poor cattle. They were standing up to their necks in muck, but they must have been okay.
Used to it, for they calmly chewed on their hay from racks attached to the stable walls at head level. Some of them might have been the white bulls of Helios, but in all that muck, who could tell? Anybody see a shovel? Asked Hercules. Our hero was ready to start mucking. Hercules, even you can't possibly shovel out all these stables in a single day, C pointed out. I have to, said Hercules, or I will have failed at my labors. While they argued, I assessed the situation. It looked pretty grim. Suddenly, Hydra started making wild gestures. What are you doing, Hydra? Asked Hercules. Hydra kept gesturing. She's trying to tell us something, said C. But what? No one could figure out what she meant. Hercules brightened. Are you playing charades? Hydra nodded eagerly. She held up 2 fingers, pulled an ear, and spread her arms wide.
2 words, Sir Hercules. First one sounds like big, pig, jig, rig. Hydra shook her head. She pretended to, what, shovel something? Dig, said Hercules. Hydra's head nodded. She held up 2 fingers. Second word, said Hercules. Hydra pointed north to the Alphys River, then to the Peonese River to the west. Technically, pointing is not allowed in charades, but no one objected. River, shouted Hercules. Dig river! All Hydra's heads started nodding like crazy. Are you saying, said C, that Hercules should dig new channels for the 2 rivers and get them to flow through the stables and wash them out? Hydra nodded so vigorously that several of her heads knocked together. That's not, Hydra wasn't much to look at, but.
Okay. With all those heads, hold on one second, sorry about that. Okay, with all those heads, she sure had a lot of brain power. She'd just come up with a brilliant idea. There was only one problem with it. Hercules couldn't possibly dig fast enough to divert those rivers in a single day. Luckily, I had a brilliant idea. Be back in a flash, I told Hercules. Don't you want to dig a little first? Hinted Hercules. Later, I said. I knew Hercules thought I was trying to get out of helping him, but I also knew he'd thank me later. I walked swiftly to Alpheus River and astro traveled to the source. And there sat Alpheus, the river god himself. He was young as river gods go, and handsome. He had a full head of red hair and a bushy red beard. Alpheus, I said. Hades here. Alpheus's watery blue eyes opened wide in surprise. Hades, he boomed. Greetings. What an unexpected surprise. How's your brother? Poison. That rascal hasn't been around to see me for years. Okay.
Did you see my current today? Wait. Did you skip again? You took Venetia's turn.
It's your turn.
Okay,
your turn.
okay. Did you see my current today? It's full of the most enticing ripples. River gods, as a rule, are very full of themselves. and Alpheus was no exception. He leaned forward. You know the goddess Artemis? Well enough, I told him. Alpheus sighed. She splashed across me this morning, chasing a herd of antelope. It was a thrill having her lovely feet running along my pebbles. I'd heard that Alpheus had a big crush on Artemis. Evidently, it was true. I'm hoping she'll come this way again on her way back to her hunting lodge, said Alpheus. Maybe she won't be in such a hurry. Maybe she'll do a little waiting. She'll probably go home by way of King Augeas's place, I said. It's quicker. Alpheus raised his bushy red eyebrows. Really? That's just beyond my banks. You could overflow your banks and get closer to the palace, I suggested. That wouldn't be hard for a
Okay.
powerful
river god like you. Then she had to cross you again. Alpheus frowned. Are you talking flood here? I shrugged. It would be a bold move for your part, I told him. But that's just the sort of move Artemis really goes for. Alpheus started nodding. You know, I think you're onto something. He stood up. Excuse me, will you Hades? He raised his great muscular arms and drove into his own waters. I landed in the headwaters of the Peonies River, and there was Peonies. He was starting most.
I missed it.
It's no longer the Peneus River, it's the Penis River.
I knew that was going to get me. I knew.
That's what she said.
And he barely had gone completely white since the last time I've seen him. He gave me a start when I appeared. Hades, he said when he realized who it was. Well, I'll be damned. Ha ha. Just a little
river god joke. Get it? Damned. I'll be damned. Yeah. So what brings you out this way? Just checking on some earthly matters, I told him. How are things with you, Phineas? Oh, same old, said Phineas. Can't explain, really, but if I could, I'd say I'm flowing a little low these days, a little low and a little slow. I'm not the river I once was, Hades. Hey, that's not what I heard, I told him. Why, I'll bet you could still overflow your banks if you wanted to. Get a little choppy, muster up a few whitecaps. Phineas shook his white-maned head. I Alpheus is only a little younger than you, I pointed out. And he's flooding today. Alpheus? Phineas sat straight up in his throne. You know that for a fact? Saw him dive into his own river with my own eyes, I said. He was going to try to send a stream rushing down through King Augeas's property. No kidding. Phineas was wide awake now, okay?
You could flood there too, I said. And if, at the end of the day, some of his waters happened to end up in your river and raised your water level, well, it wouldn't be your fault. I'd have high waters again, said Phineas, half to himself. Good talk to you, Hades. Very helpful. He stood up, swinging his arms in preparation for a swan dive. Send my best to that brother of yours, won't you? Now, if you'll excuse me. Go ahead, I said. Have a great flood. Zip. Zip. I went straight back to Hercules. He was digging on the banks of the Alpheus River for all he was worth. C was digging beside him. Hydra was mapping out how the canal should flow. Flood warning, I told him. The rivers are about to flow through the stables. Hercules, said C, go tell the cattle to grab their feed troughs with their teeth and hold on tight. Hurry! Hercules cried as he ran off to spread the word.
Okay.
Soon,
A rushing, roaring sound filled the air. Then, from the crest of the hill, came two giant waves. Hercules was a powerful swimmer. I knew he'd be okay, but he was a lion, big cat, and had cat pure water. I knew we wouldn't survive anything. I worried that we might get caught up. So, when it was against the rules of how mortals can and can't help themselves, my arms around these two and chatted again. Ruba King Augustus Palace. There we had perfect view of the raging rivers whooshing down to the hill. Clear water rushing to the stables. Minutes later, Dick Stewie float out of the stables in the bottom of the hill. In an hour, the whole thing was over. Hydra remained to snap a picture. Click. This time, as Hercules walked through the gates of Merinci, he had no monster to show off about. Morals cheered him.
He didn't need a monster anymore. Hercules had grown stronger and more muscular with every labor. Now, he was the main attraction. You're our hero, Hercules, shouted the bystanders. Yuri, called Hercules, rapping on the big bronze pot. Come and see the picture of the nice, clean stables. Slide it to me, said Yuri. He opened the slot. Hercules stuck in the picture. Can't believe it, Yuri muttered. But I'll check it off. I was wearing my helmet. I didn't want Yuri to know I was giving Hercules a hand. But fall was almost over. I'd promised Persephone I'd be home by the first day of winter. Time was running out. I had to speed things up, so I took a chance and called invisibly. Give him his next labor. Here you go, said Yuri. He laughed again as he pushed a little roll of parchment through the slot. Good luck with the birdies. Okay.
Chapter 13. Big Bird. Labor 6, Red Sea. Red Sea, as we headed out of the city gates again. Get rid of the Stymphalian birds who are befouling everything around them, he frowned. Stymphalian birds? Never heard of them. Me neither, said Hercules. Hydra shook her head. I guess that makes me the bearer of bad news, I told them. The Stymphalian birds live in a marsh in Arcadia. They're huge and have iron beaks and iron wings. There are so many of them that when they fly in circles over the marsh, they blot out the sun, and the earth turns dark as night. But that's not the worst thing about them.
Okay.
I'm afraid to ask, said C. They can fire their iron wing feathers like arrows, I said. They shoot mortals, pick them up into their iron claws and rip them apart with their iron beaks. But that's not the worst thing about them. Don't tell us, said C. The worst thing about them, I said, is they're deadly poisonous Seminthian birdie do. More muck, said Hercules. Hydrocide, what I took it to is something close to yuck. C wrinkled their nose. But Hercules, C, and Hydra marked variably off to the Arcadian marsh. As usual, I met them there. Zip.
Oh,
It was
sorry.
freezing. I found Hercules running around the swamp trying to catch the birds with his hands. He wasn't having any luck. He had a paw clapped over his nose. Hydra had managed to fashion nose clips
out of twigs. She wore one on each of her 9 noses. The Stymphalian birds were shivering too. The birds that didn't have their heads tucked under their iron wings had icicles hanging off their beaks. Hydra waded over to me. She held up 2 fingers. 2 words. 2 words, I said, watching her closely. First word is, Hydra made fluttering, flapping motions with her arms. Fly, I said. Hydra gave me a thumbs up. I got it. First try. Again, she held up 2 fingers. Second word, I said. Hydra pulled on an earlobe, then pointed to her mouth. Sounds like mouth. Hydra nodded. Fly mouth? That was nonsense, but Hydra was nodding. I had to be close. Fly south! Thumbs up from Hydra. Okay?
Fly south, I said, getting as excited as Hydra. Yes! If we can get them to fly south, we'll be rid of them. At least until next spring, C pointed out. Whatever, said Hercules, who had waded out of the marsh when he saw what Hydra was up to. But how do we get them to fly south? If ever a situation called for CCC, this was it. Give me a minute, I said as I switched my brain into creature communication channel. Leader of the Stymphalian birds, come here, please. It's me, Hades, king of the underworld. I want to talk to you. I heard some pretty awful screeching and static inside my brain. Then one of the birds began wading toward me. It was an enormous creature. Its iron wings pressed up against its body of gray metal feathers. It had a short neck, and for a bird, a large head with a dull iron beak.
Okay.
Wait, where am I? Oh, beak. Perica here, she said through her chattering beak. Kore, I said. Perica pulled up her gray feathers to warm herself. Why didn't you and the flock fly south to the winter? I asked her. Leave the marsh? She asked. Sure, I replied. Fly south, where it's nice and warm. That's what most birds do when the weather turns cold. No one ever told me, said Perica, which way is south? I pointed. You won't regret it. Thanks, Perica said. Just don't go too far south, I thought after she was turned around and waded back into the marsh. Iron can get pretty hot. Perica began squawking, soon the whole sticky flock began flapping in preparation for takeoff. All to Stymphalian birds yelped Hercules. He ran around in the marsh yelling and whooping and making as much racket as possible to get those birds to fly. And as an on a thing with each and every
Okay. Each and every Stymphalian bird with its iron rings rose up to the air. As the birds circled overhead, the sky turned dark as midnight. Careful, C shouted. Over the wind. The birds flew off toward the south, and the sun reappeared. Hydra snapped a picture of the birdless swamp. They're gone, cried Hercules. Thanks, Uncle Hades. Don't mention it, I said. Listen, Hercules, it's time for me to go now to the underworld for the winter. All right, said Hercules. Have a good one, Uncle Hades. I won't be around to help with your labors, I pointed out. No, that's okay, said Hercules. You could wait until spring to go back to Uri, I said. Then I'll be back to, do what I can for you. Nah, you go, Uncle Hades, said Hercules. Okay.
Well, here's a phone, I said. Demeter, who long ago had invented the little phones so she could keep track of Persephone, had made all of us gods promise never to give a phone to a mortal. I couldn't let Hercules have it, so I handed it to Hydra. If there's any problem, anything at all, call me, day or night. My number is on memory dial 1. We'll be fine on our own, Uncle Hades, said Hercules. Bye. Bye. I have to say, I felt sort of left out as I watched the three turn and start back to Mycenae.
Okay, we are going to stop right there.
Yeah.
Yay, 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 yay.
That was fun. That was very funny.
Yes, it was. I again apologize for
Don't apologize for anything. That was
all
great.
of the hold on one second.
Don't
All
apologize
of
for anything.
the technical difficulties. Jeez. But you
Seriously.
know what? Yay for
Don't
my
apologize for
hotspot.
anything because we had a blast. We got to catch up. Except,
Mhm.
wait, what happened? No, there you are.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to your light?
She froze.
Yes, right?
Oh, and no, I took my phone back because I was looking at it and my hotspot held up really well. Let's stop it. Stop it. Yeah, it held up really well. So let me stop recording. Hold up. Where do I stop recording? Stop it. Y'all are so crazy.
I'm having a blast with this.
Yes, I
really
know
am
you
enjoying
are.